Hello and welcome to Native Yoga Center. My name is Todd McLaughlin, and today we're going to cover how to practice Padangusthasana, also known as big toe posture. The word pada references foot. The word angushta references the big toe of the foot. So Padangusthasana is the posture that we catch our big toes and do a forward bend. This is the very first pose that happens in the Ashtanga primary series, a part of a series of asanas that are sometimes called the fundamental asanas. And what we are basically doing is a very deep, or we are working a forward bend position. Now, prior to this in the warm-up in the Ashtanga series, we work with the sun salutations, sun salutation A and sun salutation B. You can check out the videos I have on our platform on YouTube, Native Yoga Center, that I already cover how to do the sun salutation A and B. But one of the first poses that we do that's a forward bend is the downward facing dog. And we do a posture called Ardha Uttanasana, half intense pose. And we have a pose called Uttanasana. And those ones we only hold the forward bend, the Ardha Uttanasana and the Uttanasana, we only hold for one inhale and one exhale. Here in Padangusthasana, we hold for the full 5 breaths. The grip in Padangusthasana is using the peace fingers or the index in the middle and the thumb. And so a couple of things I just want to cover, some of the alignment details. And this is specific to Ashtanga Yoga, but it can be applied, a lot of these principles can be applied to whether you're practicing Bikram Yoga, Shivananda Yoga, Hatha Yoga classes, Gentle Yoga. This will be applicable across the board. All right, so the first thing we'll focus on is the hamstring element. So it is a pose where we touch the toes, where we hold on to the toes. So that requires the ability to forward bend at our hips. Now, in Padangusthasana, we are starting from a position called Samasthitihi, which is where we stand with our feet together. The feet separate, and we fold forward and down. So the process of folding forward and down, notice that if I just hinge at my hips, this can put pressure onto the low back. So the typical way to come in for a newbie, for a beginner, a yoga for beginners, is to bend your knees and start to work your way forward. Now, one option I teach in like my gentle Ashtanga classes where I have absolute beginners is to first see if you can put your hands on your knees. The next trick is, can you bend your knees and put your elbows on your knees? And the next thing is, can you grab a hold of your ankles, your calves or your shins? And then our goal eventually is to be able to grab a hold of the big toes. So the 2 fingers slide in between the big and the second toe, and then you grab the toe and you secure the grip with your thumb catching around your index and middle finger. So this is easier said than done. If you can fold forward and grab a hold of your big toes with your knees bending, I'll suggest go ahead and grab a hold of your big toes. Keep your knees bent. Now notice my spine has the ability, I have the ability to lift my head up or have the ability to drop the body down. So in the preparation for the pose, we take an inhale and extend and lift the spine up. And then on the exhale, we let the head drop down. Now in this case, notice that my chest is touching onto my thighs. One of the challenges is that we see is that if I keep my legs straight and I come in and I'm really tight in my hamstrings, my back does this really deep rounding position. We need to be careful of this because there's a term called loaded flexion. You've heard it a million times, I'm sure, by now in your life. Don't pick up the heavy item with your back. Don't grab the heavy box and use your back to lift up. You bend your knees, you get down low, you grab the item, you grab the couch, oven, whatever it is, and you use your legs so that your back is stabilized. Now, sometimes when we see beginning yoga students practice and learning how to stretch the hamstrings, we'll come across this idea of loaded flexion. What that means is we round the back, we grab the toes, and now we're literally like holding weight. We're holding the weight of our legs, so to speak, and all of that pressure is going into the back. And this can be a recipe for overpressurizing the disc space in between the vertebrae. So you got to be really careful. So a solution to fix this problem is to bend your knees and try to get your belly or your chest down onto your thighs. So notice I'm coming down, I test the water, I see if I can get my hands on my knees. Next, to bring the elbows onto the knees. Next, I would attempt to catch my ankles or shins. Next time, I find I'm able to grab my toes. Once you have the grip secure, go ahead and let your chest touch down onto your thighs with bent knees. Inhale, breathe, lift your head up. And exhale, breathe, let your head drop down. And hold in the posture and breathe in through your nose and out through your nose for 5 breaths. All right, so this is beginning, very beginning stage of the pose. Now, what we attempt to do over time is to be able to straighten the legs all of the way and hold the toes. So this requires a fair amount of hamstring flexibility and or the ability to crease deeply at the hips and stretch forward. Take it slow. There's no hurry. One of the main things to remember is to breathe while you're holding the pose. Another really classic scenario is I'm trying to touch my toes and I'm struggling so much to hold the position that I don't breathe, and that holding of the breath tension creates more tension. So the main idea, we are better off holding somewhere like this and breathing in and out steadily. Inhale, exhale, than grabbing the toes and making, like grunting sounds and really working too hard. So better just to chill. Try to breathe nice and easy. Inhale and exhale. If you do this, your nervous system is getting the signal. It's okay to relax. And then you find you're able to go a little deeper. Listen to your body. If you have back pain, go slow. Another great exercise in this one is working the ability to do the pelvic tilt. Where we see this most common is in the cow and the cat pose. So a good place to learn your pelvic tilt motion is working with flexion and extension of the spine. So this can be a great place to start working on your Padangusthasana, your big toe posture. All right, so let me break it down a little further. So you've gotten to the point where you are able to relatively comfortably grab a hold of your big toes. You have the grip secure. Now what? All right, so the main thing we're going to attempt to do is see how close can I get to straightening my legs. One approach, don't really pull with your arms until you are able to get your legs all the way back. Now, when you press your legs back, right now I'm resting on the joint, locked out, and right now I'm squeezing my quadriceps. I don't know if you can see the difference. Right now I'm resting, right now I'm squeezing. Right now I'm resting, right now I'm squeezing. What happens when you squeeze your thigh muscles? So your quadriceps, big powerful muscles on your legs, when you squeeze your quads, your kneecaps lift up, and it tightens and secures all the ligaments around the knees. So we can strive in the direction of being able to get the legs completely straight. It's not absolutely necessary. If you do have a hamstring pull or a tear, don't try to push your knees all the way back, and don't fold too deep. Let it heal before you start attempting to go into full range of motion with your hamstrings. All right, so we've come to the point where we can catch our toes. We arrive at the destination where we can get our legs straight. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze my thighs. Another strategy is to tighten the abdominal wall, to give a squeeze on the abdominal wall. Now I'm going to begin to pull. As I pull, usually what happens, the knees want to bend. So I'm going to keep moderate to strong contraction on the quads. As you pull, then you can bring your body down closer and closer and closer to your legs, just working your range of motion here with the flexibility. And it's just a gradual process, day by day. Just kind of work step by step. Oh yeah, if you have any questions and you're watching me live right now, every Thursday I do this tutorial 11:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern time. Join in live on YouTube, Facebook, my X account, and or Twitch, and ask questions. I'll answer them here at the end of the tutorial. All right, so we figured out how to grab our toes. We figured out how to straighten the legs. Another question is now, which way should my arms go and my shoulders go when I'm in the pose? This is a great question. We get this one a lot, and there's several answers. Let me cover all the bases and steps here. So watch, I'm going to turn facing this way. You're going to see my back, but I'm going to demonstrate the difference between having my shoulder blades in this position, which is called elevation, and or this position, which is called depression. There's this position with the shoulders forward, which is called protraction, and there's this position where the shoulder blades are pulled together on the back called retraction. And the other motion that's associated with scapula is we have this what's called upward rotation, and we have this motion which is called downward rotation. So I'll point that out. I'm going to fold and put my back to you so you can see. All right, so I'm coming forward. I bend my knees a little bit. I catch a hold of my big toes. I'm going to press my knees back. I'm going to start to begin to bend my elbows. Now, as I pull, notice that my elbows can either come near my shins or my elbows can come far away from my shins. So the answer to the question of which way I'm going to go here will reflect a little more about, well, what am I going to try to do with my shoulder blades? So let me turn sideways again and demonstrate from this angle. I'm holding my toes. My legs are straight. We bend at the elbows. Now, one strategy is to take the elbows directly apart, meaning you bend your elbows, but you keep your elbows tracking in this sideways line so they work across away from each other. Now, my shoulders, though, I don't want to hunch my shoulders up around my ears. I'm going to attempt to pull the shoulder blades down a little bit. And one way to make that a little bit more possible is if you take your elbows and you wrap them around the side, because then your shoulders can come down and you can keep that nice open space on your upper trapezius here on the sides of your neck. And part of this is like we don't want to develop extra tension around our shoulders and neck and like really squeeze and tighten. We're going to just try to keep this nice open position where we have broad across the chest and shoulders and nice opening around the upper trapezius here on the neck and side top shoulder. All right, so let me demonstrate that from the front angle. I come into the pose, catch my toes, and I start to pull. And so notice that if I take my shoulders up around my ears like this, one way I can strategize, relax the shoulders, take the elbows toward the legs, toward the outer shin, and then pull the shoulder blades away from the ears, and then use the arms to pull and fold forward. So that can address the arms. Now, there's a couple of other exercises and ways that you can work on your Padangusthasana. Remember, pada means foot, angushta means big toe. It also can reference the thumb. Is to work the same exact thing from a seated position. So we can start to get the feeling for it by coming down to a seat position, bend the knees, and practice the grip where you take your fingers and slide between the big and second toe. Now, here's that idea of actually touching the chest to the thighs with the knees bending, as opposed to grabbing the toes with a deep round in the back. So make sure you keep your back relatively stable and strong. Pay attention to your body. If you feel pain while you're doing it, back up, keep your core engaged. Don't flex the spine a whole bunch. Keep the spine relatively neutral and start to access your hamstring flexibility from the seated position, holding the toes. So notice I have my knees bent to be able to do that. You can approach this way. And little by little, over time, we try to press the knees down while holding the toes. And the same exact position seated is Paschimottanasana, more or less with the feet apart. And again, I'm going to take my shoulders and pull them down away from the ears, doing that depression of the scapula, a little bit of protraction if possible, taking the elbows down toward the legs. Same here from the other angle. Now, sometimes we have beginners that need chairs to practice because of the balance aspect. Oh yeah, and I want to point this out too. This is really important. You're holding onto your toes and you're upside down. Keep your eyes open. The the classic drishti is called nasa grai drishti. That means the nose drishti. So basically, if I try to look at the tip of my nose, I might feel cross-eyed because my eyes are coming in. You don't have to make your eyes cross-eyed. It's not meant to be uncomfortable. You just take your eyes and gaze down the line of your nose. So when you're upside down like this, there's a whole bunch of different places you can look. You can look down at the floor. You can look at the floor through the legs. And another one is just to kind of keep the gaze really close near the nose and look down the line or in the direction of the nose tip. But the point being, keep your eyes open because you are upside down. Also, if you have low blood pressure, when you're upside down, because it's an inversion, you might get a big rush of blood to your head. So when coming back up, and next week I'm going to cover Padangusthasana, the next pose. Today I'm just going to focus this tutorial just on Padangusthasana. When we go to come back up, there's an inhale, head lift. And one way I like the way that David Swinson teaches it is you bring your hands up first, you exhale, then you inhale and come up. Just come up nice and slow because after being upside down, you get that big rush of blood to the head. We want to make sure that you don't feel dizzy. But definitely keep your eyes open because you're upside down. And obviously you want to keep your balance so that if you started to fall forward, you'd have to let go really quick, right? So be ready for this one. You're upside down, you're holding on, don't fall. All right. Oh yeah, if you need to use a chair, then a way that we can start working our hamstring stretch is the ability to first sit in a chair, learn to fold the body forward, and see if you can grab your big toes while seated in a chair. Another way that you can work with the chair is to take your legs straight out in front of you, and you can start to fold forward and work your hamstring stretch here. And this is appropriate if you're having a hard time getting up and down off the floor. Don't let that be an excuse to not work with your hamstrings, to stretch your hamstrings. And it's possible to do like one leg hamstring stretches at a time. So if you need to use a chair to kind of work in on your hamstring stretch, that's completely appropriate. And another way that we can work here is by bending the knees a little bit and starting to work the toe grip and just flexing really deep. But obviously, just be careful. You're on the edge of the chair. Don't slide off. All right. I feel like that just about covers about all the questions I hear in relation to Padangusthasana. If you have any questions, type in the comment section here, and I'll answer. I'll see them in the comments and my notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can check us out on our website, nativeyogacenter.com. On there, you'll find every Friday I release a podcast called Native Yoga Toddcast. I interview yoga teachers all around the world. You can learn so much by listening to conversation about yoga. I highly recommend you check it out. And then also our platform, I record from this camera here every day on this mat. I teach public class. I have a big room here. Everybody's behind the camera, so to speak. And I record the classes and put them on our nativeyogaonline.com. And this is amazing because you can practice anytime, anywhere. Gentle yoga, yin yoga, vinyasa flow, Ashtanga primary series. You can try it all. Definitely check that out. All right. I think that about covers it. I start again here right at 12 p.m. So join in again. My next tutorial will be on triangle pose. Have a great day. Namaste. I'll check in to see if I received any questions live. All right. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a good one.